Welcome back, folks. Progress has been made on the Oldsmobile project, installing body panels. Got the brake split and all the rest, so now I can start putting the body on. Okay, the current thing I'm working on is this driver's side fender. This is an old repair that had rotted out. There's a patch here that was probably taken from another fender and just scabbed on there. So now I'm going to clean all that stuff up and hopefully reuse that patch again, and then restore these mounting points on here so I can put the fender back on. Okay, here we are. I cut out most of the bad spots here. Now I'm going to have to piece it back in and get this curve right. There's still some holes here, maybe some more cutting out to do here. I painted on some of that rust converter that I use to take care of the surface rust and all that. Okay, here's the rust treatment that I'm using for this. It's a Loctite brand. I got it from Summit. You can probably get it at the parts store too. And over here I'm working on the rust on the inside. Going to paint that on. Let everything dry good, and then I'll start making pieces to rebuild that fender. Okay, here it is. I painted the stuff on there. It looks milky white, then it'll turn black. For a while it'll look purple. And it takes a couple of treatments for this to actually work good. You can get by with just doing it once and then painting over it, but I like to burn it off, you know, with a wire wheel or whatever I have, and do it a second time. And it also works good to get the rust out of the little pores, so you can weld without it popping so bad. Alright, so here's the piece of cardboard. It basically is like this. I'm going to cut it out and use this as a template to make my piece of steel. Then I'm going to tack that in upon fitting it, which may take a little, you know, flapper wheel work to get it to fit, but it'll work fine that way. Okay, here we have a little patch in there. I have a series of tacks going around, trying not to warp things, just dancing around tacking. Now I'm going to take the flapper wheel, flapper that down, and maybe tack a little more before I grind here and work on this area. As you can see, there's an angle where it comes down, and then it flattens out where the chrome trim goes, and then it does another arc down this way, sort of. So it's a three-part curve there, so I got to be a little bit careful not to mess that up. Okay, here we are. Here's the other piece that I'm fixing to put on, and then I'll put in a little piece last. I cut this out to make it fit, and then I'm going to tack this up and go from there. That's what we did. I had to cut out some, and this hole here is where the chrome trim bolts on, and there's two more holes going to be. So the seam here is going to be behind the trim. A lot of the seam is, so that'll help. So we'll keep going. Okay, here it is with a patch tacked in. I just did a whole bunch of tacks put together. I had some thin spots up through here. I'm not claiming this is Barrett-Jackson quality by any standards, but it's a whole lot better than it was, and I'm welding metal back in. On this edge, I haven't put this lip on yet because I'm going to have to test fit it to the body of the car and see that I got this angle right. So I don't know if I'm going to have to push this in more or curve it more or what I have to do. So that's still ready for, it's ready now for test fit, but it's not ready for finished installation. Here's the inside. It doesn't look terrible. We got some pinholes here. There's going to be a certain amount of filler work going on because you try to weld that stuff when it's thin like that, and it'll drive you insane. The correct thing to do would be to cut the bottom of the fender off and replace it, or the whole fender, whichever. But what I'm doing is I'm making it work, and this is a car that's not going to be driven in the winter through salt ever again. So in reality, if you seal this up good, it'll last a long, long time. Okay, here's the fender here. Up above, it's quite good until you get to here. You can see the curve is in about the right place. And down here, this needs to come back a ways, and this is a little bit high compared to the rocker panel. So I'm going to have to, I may want to remodel that. I definitely got to add to this. so I'm going to have to work on that. Other than that, it's close. And some people would call it close enough, but I'm going to work on this some more. I'm going to bring this gap in. I'm going to add some steel here. And I might split this and bend it down a little bit to bring this even with that. It's going to take some more work, but we're getting there. Okay, here's the extra work here in progress, trying to add on to the end of this a little bit and to put a lip on the back side. It's a little bit of cut and weld to get it to shape the way I want it to be. So here we go. Okay, here we are. I believe I got it within a row of assholes here. Sorry for the pun. I got this rounded here a little bit. Obviously Bondo is going to make up the difference, but I got that a lot better than it was. And the basic shape is there, so I don't think the Bondo is going to end up being all that thick. So that'll be a good thing. So that's not bad considering how much of the fender is actually missing. If you look at the back side, you can see there's a lot of fender missing. So I believe this is going to work out. So I'm going to keep going, put her on the car again, and see how it lines up with the door and the rocker panel. Hopefully somewhat. Okay, here we go with this. I'm holding it in place because it's not bolted at the bottom. But this is about where it ends up being. This is a little close here now. But down here is a little bit far. So I think I'm going to take care of the rest with body work, Bondo work, basically. This will look a little bit better when I'm done. And it's not really going to show way down low anyway. This is a driver. This is built to be a driver, not a show car. So it's going to be good. I think I got it pretty close. Okay, I've been working on the fender some more. I took a bunch of chrome off, got a bunch of, the bolts out. I'm doing some more rust sealing with the rust converter there, and painting that on. Each time I paint that on and sand it off, it gets more rust out of the pores. And so now I'm going to roll the fender over and work on that patch that I made. So as you can see, we're getting there a little bit at a time. But I like that rust converter stuff. You can see the color change occurring as it's doing its thing. So once I'm done, I'm going to have this all cleaned up and I'm going to seal it with epoxy primer. But I want to get rid of as much rust as possible first before I cover things over. All right, here's the other side sitting on the bench. I got some of that rust converter drying on there, so I'm going to call it a day at this point. This takes care of it. From this point, it's going to be, I'll probably start to straighten up this fender with Bondo before bolting it on, but of course you don't want to do too much of that before the fender is installed, because you could get it so it looks really nice on the bench and then bolt it on and it doesn't fit. So but here it is. Made a lot of progress this weekend, and she's looking better. You can see this car's been painted at least twice and they didn't bother to take the chrome off. That's kind of interesting. But we're going to strip this down to bare metal because underneath the paint, this place is bubbling up and stuff. So there we go. Please like and subscribe.